We're sitting here with Dave from Grimpath, and a lot of exciting things have happened since last time. So we thought we could sort of lure Dave back in to talk about Grimpath and everything that's going on right now. So maybe just give like the super quick introduction to yourself. And if you want to see the first interview, it is in the podcast section of the YouTube channel. But who are you and what are we talking about today?
Hey, I'm David. I'm the creator of Grimpath. You did not have to lure me in here. I was like really excited. I was definitely like, yeah, I'd love to talk about it with you guys. Yeah, a lot has changed. It's been, I'm creator of Grimpath. Grimpath is a TCG and Wargame sort of mashup. It's a skirmish-based Wargame that I've been working on for at least 5 months. We spoke 5 months ago, but I've been working on it for a long time. Like this is a game that I've kind of always wanted to play, and my friends are like, why don't you make that game instead of always like waiting for somebody else to make it? And so here we are. It's crazy that we're finally at this point where we shipped the demo yesterday. The demo's out there. So cool. Yeah. Speaking of things that have like been going on, there's a lot going on. Like we're, moving a lot. Like to make a trading card game and a war game, it's like you got to get all the trading card game stuff right, and then you're like, oh, I've got all these miniatures that I've got to also get right. So during this whole demo experience, I've been working with the 3D artists and some sculptors and the studio that we're going to be doing the manufacturing in to get our miniatures ready. So hopefully the physical demo will be following very soon. But what we've been doing and what you got to play yesterday is the new Tabletop Sim demo. And the other thing that we launched with the Tabletop Simulator demo is our Kickstarter pre-launch page. So that's up, and I'll make sure to send you the link to that. That's now it's time. Like we're looking for fighters and wizards and warriors to join our party. So please come and join our Kickstarter fellowship. The Kickstarter will be in February, but we're looking for people to join up.
Yeah, and if you're already really excited for Grimpath, the link will be down below in the description, and you should be, because we just tried it yesterday, and it was super cool. I think my main complaint was like, why are we not playing this already on paper?
I loved it. Yeah, I sent you that feedback form, and it was like, how can we improve the game? And you're like, make a physical version.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. There was one other feedback that how can we improve the game, and it was ship it. And I was like, I love it. That's what I want to hear. Like, get it out there. So.
Exactly. So last time we spoke, we talked about Grimpath. We talked about what kind of game, and you were still like developing on some stuff, but we were kind of wondering what has happened with the game of Grimpath for the last 5 months, because you have been to some cons, playing the game, showing the game. What has it developed into? What changed?
That's a really good question. It's a great question, because I do remember we were talking about gameplay 5 months ago, and there's one thing that has changed, and it was one of the things that I was like, it's one of my favorite. You were like, what are some of your favorite things? And I was like, I really like this mechanic, but that's actually changed, and we'll talk about it. But as a game designer, that's one of the things that I think you have to like really get used to is like, killing your children. You're like, I've made these like beautiful like things that I love, and it's like, well, it's not going in the game now, and being able to like get around that. But a lot has changed. When we took the game to Gen Con, that was our first like hardcore public demo. I had done some like, I go to the game stores where we're in my town. I'm always like, hey, I want to hang out and play my game. But this was my first time like going to a con, like like I have been to a lot of video game conventions, but this was actually my first tabletop convention, I think, or maybe I've like kind of gone to them and just not paid attention. But it was like really intimidating to like go to a wargaming convention for the first time and then also be demoing a game and also having it be like your first public demo of your own game. It's I was very like
but like Gen Con.
That's big.
Yeah, it was huge. I couldn't believe it. Like the very first demo, I think there's a TikTok I posted where we walked out and it's in like a football stadium. I was like, I wanted to make a competitive tournament ready war game, but I didn't, like this is the dream, playing in a football stadium, not like I didn't expect this on the launch. But yeah, that was really fun to meet a lot of new people. And I met some like great people at that show. Alex is one of the designers that has joined the project, and he worked on Genesis. And so he came up and introduced himself. We played a few games. He played a bunch of games with us, and then after, when things died down, he was like, now that it's quiet, can I introduce myself? I'm Alex. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. And so he, we've been sticking together like glue, playing the game a lot together. He's been a really good, like having him on the project, speaking of things that have changed, having him on the project is really great because he is really good with like card game balance, algorithms, the really like nuts and bolts of what makes a TCG like balanced and work and like a complete system and no broken cards and stuff like that. And he really keeps me in check because I, on the other hand, am like lightning where I'm just like, let's just try this crazy thing. He's like, why did you put this in here? And I was like, because I felt like it.
It's fun.
Yeah, I'm very much one of those people that's like, let's like splash around in the bathtub and like just like make a bunch of noise and like see what happens. And then once we've got that experience working, then we can tighten up all those like the difficult, all the balancing and stuff like that. But having Alex there through the whole process is great because it's just kept the game like on rails and keeping me on, keeping us on check. And it's probably part of the reason we were able to ship so easily. So that's one change that's been really great. And but as far as the gameplay, one of the big changes from Gen Con was we took the Gen Con demo was a more like Magic the Gathering style non-persistent damage where it's like you do 2 damage. And that's fun and that's classic and that's kind of the reason, that I really like the classic TCG mechanic, of non-persistent damage. But in practice, it turned out to be a little bit too complicated for new players. And I want Grimpath to be something that you don't struggle to learn how to play, that it just sort of like falls into place. And then when you want to start mastering it, that's where the complexity comes. Yeah. And so, so we like one of the biggest changes we changed to persistent damage. I always got to double check in my head if it's the right phrasing, but persistent damage where we're tracking damage on a minion. And that feels so much more like what I think we all want from like a living war game where it feels like you can just be like plink and like shoot a minion for like 1 damage and you're like, I got what I needed. I got to plink you. And it feels very much like your video game strategies games like XCOM or like, any of those turn-based strategy games that I kind of am like walking in the shadow of, I think, with Grimpath. I definitely think that Grimpath is inspired by like digital turn-based strategy games as much as it is physical war games. I like how easy those games are to play, and so that's part of the reason we do the trading cards, to make it easier to play. That's one of the major changes. There's a whole bunch more changes, and I just sort of unloaded a bunch of
but very
words.
cool. Also because I think it feels more like it matters that you got your 1 goblin and you got that 1 damage in, because it isn't just like, on the next turn it'll be gone, so I need to be able to kill that minion. It still just matters giving those little, daggers at the big dude.
Yeah, it feels satisfying to like send wave after wave of your men at the kill bots. It's like that you're wearing down this army rather than what it could create when it's the Magic the Gathering style or the non-persistent is it creates this thing where you're like, let me do the math.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me do the math, and there's too much. You want to just get in there and like, I want to kill that spider, so I'm just going to start plinking the spider until it's dead.
Yeah, and it's a lot more like organic feeling, because I was like, okay, where can I do some damage? What kind of goblins can I send towards you? And like constantly, like the game was engaging instead of me like going, okay, hold on, I need to calculate if I can kill you this time. It was more like, okay, we're continuously playing and having fun, rather than me sitting like, okay, math is hard. Can I actually turn you now?
Yes, that's awesome. Yeah, that's what it's all about, is like, I just want it to be a fun experience. And then at the end of the day, you're like, that was a competitive experience.
Yeah, and it definitely was one. So we got in and played a game on TTS yesterday and was really fun. And also congratulations on actually, making it to the TTS. That's a huge step. And we also saw your, how to play video where you had this little Lego board and the Lego figures. So already from that video to the TTS, it's really evident that you've come a really long way.
That's so cool to hear. Thank you. Yeah, I did. I used to use Legos in Tabletop Simulator. I was like, where can I get miniatures? I was like, oh, there's like cool Lego building apps. And so I figured out a way how to get Legos in there. But we had to finally move on to the final version. Maybe one day we'll have a Lego.
But it was very cool to see that final version, and like there's a nice little, if you go on there, you haven't been there yet, you need to go and get that Halloween feel right now with the little pumpkins and everything.
Yes.
It's really nice, but also it really has sort of, that board game sort of feeling right now, because TTS doesn't automate anything. You still need to move and do everything. So that's sort of the same feel that you get by playing in person. But maybe you should tell some of our viewers and listeners, what is TTS and what is Grimpath doing on there?
That's great. Yeah. Okay. So TTS is a simulation of a board game. It's like a game that's, I don't know who made it. I forget the name of the studio, but they made this. It's basically like a physics table with with content that you can edit. Like you can add models and you can add stuff, and it's really good at like adding physics. Like when it has all the controls. Like you click a thing and it picks it up. You can press the keys to rotate it, and you drop them down and they drop right physically in front of you. And you can see in our like environment, this tavern is kind of, this is actually from the Tabletop Simulator. It's the skybox that we use for our tavern. And so, you'd be able to like pick up and, left click and move them. But I think Berserk Games are the studio that made that. But anyways, there's a lot of different mods for Tabletop Sim that people have made. You can play Dungeons and Dragons in Tabletop Sim. In fact, I think that's how I first got Tabletop Sim. Like we were trying to figure out how to play digitally. During COVID, we were like, how are we going to continue playing? I think we tried Tabletop Sim at one point. But I used to tell people that it's like the Tabletop Sim is board game design rocket fuel. Like until I like using Tabletop Sim, I would physically cut out cards and draw them with pens and write the numbers. And then when I got Tabletop Sim, it's great because you can do it in Photoshop, save your file. You go to Tabletop Sim, just reopen, import the new deck in, and then you can just start playing with it right away. So it's really easy to be like, this number is too high, change it, continue playing. So it really that really helped Grimpath's game design production phase. It really did feel like rocket fuel. Like every day I was like, oh my God, I'm able to make so many new cards and temporary cards and try ideas out so quickly. So yeah, it's a really neat program. If you have any interest in it, in board game development, Tabletop Simulator is awesome, and you can get it in Steam. But if you have any interest in Grimpath, you should get Tabletop Simulator because you can download the mod.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it basically is what you'll have in the demo is there's a play mat. There's two decks. We have the Shadow and the Fury decks. There's the Goblin, the Fury Battalion, and then the Cult of the Brood, which is this weird cult of vampires and slime-covered necromancers.
Oh yeah,
spiders and stuff. But there's those two decks. They're 30-card decks, which is our standard deck size. And then there's two warlords. There's Glue Trap, which is this slime, undead slime creature. Yeah, and then there is a goblin summoner who's a goblin summoner. And so, Grimpath is a lot like a commander magic, where you pick your warlord, or Flesh and Blood, I think, does that too as well. You pick your warlord, then you build your deck sort of around that warlord's abilities. That's kind of your tent pole for what your synergy is. And then you can be you could change out warlords in between matches, but in Grimpath, your warlord is there for the whole match. And when your warlord, when you take damage, or when your warlord takes damage, you take damage, or when you take damage, the warlord takes damage, and you track it together. And when your warlord is killed, you're killed. So that's just a little quick walkthrough of the overall game, I suppose. But Yeah, having all the miniatures and Tabletop Simulator, and then I'm glad you enjoyed all the Halloween stuff coming out on October. You got it. I love all the like Christmas skins for games or like Halloween. I love all that stuff. So I'm super excited that we can with the Tabletop Sim.
Yeah, definitely. It was really fun to actually, finally get to play it, and
it blows my mind.
It worked like a charm.
Yeah,
and was a fun, startup when you have to place the terrain on the battlefield.
Yeah.
And, all this with line of sight and stuff like that. It was really fun. So we have the Fury deck with the goblins and the necromancers, the brute.
Cult of the Brood.
Yeah,
the shadow deck.
But we also know from our last talk that there are more factions going to be able to be played in Grimpath. Could you tell us a little more about the other factions that are maybe going to be in the Kickstarter?
Yes, yeah. So we're going with five different spheres. We call them spheres of influence. The overarching like lore to the realm of Grimpath is that like, imagine I sound like Galadriel when I'm saying this, but long ago, the realm was consumed with Shadow's insatiable desire or hunger to consume everything. Like it covered, Shadow covered the realm, and then like from deep within that like darkness sparked the flames of war, which pushed back at the Shadow using fire and brimstone. And creates to forge its own path through the darkness. Then from the flames of war and the smoke and ash grew the regenerative power of nature, and that will be the first of the spheres that are not in the demo, the nature sphere. And nature grew giant trees and forests to protect its children, which are all the animals and the elves and the immortals of the world. Then the spirit of adventure would have those creatures set out into the mortal realm to like forge their own paths. And they built empires and armies and cities and villages. And then inside of those villages and cities and empires, they built towers to wizards and sorcerers would build towers to, reach off into the heavens. And they invented the sciences of the arcane. And so those are like, that's the story arc. It's kind of like a timeline of Grimpath where, Shadow's the first sphere of influence, Fury is the second, and those are in our demo. And then the three that will be added in the Kickstarter are Nature, Spirit, and Arcane. And like the more like easy to swallow description is nature is like creatures, animals, all the stuff that you would imagine with nature. Spirit is going to be your like Dungeons and Dragons theme, like your adventure, like it's the parties of heroes, the humans of the world, all of the creatures working together. And then the arcane is obviously the like wizards and sorcery and dragons and who knows what they'll uncover. I like to think that the way that we have written the sort of flow of that is that like there is a future of expansions, potential new spheres that can be added. There's they did a little bit of that in D&D where they sort of expanded their character classes over time, and that is a potential that there is a potential for that with the Grimpath storyline. Like who knows what kind of accidental nightmares the sorcerers may rip into. They could conjure a whole new sphere of influence. Who knows what they'll find in the spacey skies.
You're saying like, there's plenty of room to expand and you can do a lot of other stuff and we might see more different sort of influences. Could you imagine like going to something that's non-fantasy? Do you see this being in like the fantasy world broadly?
I like the type of fantasy where we've sort of evolved into this like not steampunk fantasy, but like Dungeons and Dragons that allows for more. Like World of Warcraft was the first like hardcore fantasy game that I ever played. I was like, wow, there's guns in there. That's like they really integrated guns well with that dwarf hunter in their very first video way back. But I'm really keen on that type of fantasy world. I really like the arcane, what Arcane has done, where it's like, God, this is sort of like a timeless era. And I would like to see Grimpath sort of evolve into a sort of fantasy world where it feels like a little bit timeless like that, where you can sort of get whatever you want from the different fantasy genres to create your own sort of like mark in the world. So I do think that we'll see like some variety in these factions or these spheres as we like expand. But when it comes to like the timeline trajectory, I'm not going to say that in my head I've written like long 1,000-year futures, but like there could be 40,000 years worth of future, which is a small reference in the Grimpath universe that could create a sort of like living, cohesive universe where expansions go. But for Grimpath, for now, the core of Grimpath is a fantasy war game where we're just going to try to stick to that sort of timeless fantasy where you can get a little bit. You do have a character who's drinking coffee in Dungeons and Dragons, but it fits.
Yeah,
like it works
exactly.
I like that sort of twist on fantasy, and you can see that I think with some of the like miniatures. Like there's like a dude with a gun, and he's kind of like a little bit more cowboy up. So there's a lot of room for customization, I think, in the fantasy realm, as long as you sort of play with the timeless style, I think.
Yeah,
exactly. I love that, vampire sniper from the Shadow faction.
Yes, yeah,
really nice.
Nice.
Also range 6, I was like, ooh, I'm going to abuse this.
Yes.
It was really cool. So, Dave, you told us that we have this warlord that's the main character, the leader of the warband, and the objective is to kill this character. And right now we have a 30-card deck and the war leader. Are there going to be multiple, possible war chiefs per faction?
Definitely. We haven't set the exact number of first edition warlords. I think me and Alex will talk about balance with stuff like that and what we want to do for it. But I want it to feel a little bit more like Magic the Gathering than Flesh and Blood, where it feels like there's just a wide variety of warlords for you to sort of mess around with. I want it to feel a little bit more like a legendary card in Magic, where it's like we're not going to make warlords creatures that you can put into your deck. They will be unique in that way, but I do want there to be a wide variety of them. And I think playing with more people and like seeing the player base and evolving, we could have a pure warlord expansion once where maybe there's like 60 warlords that like pop out.
That would be
That would
so
be
cool.
awesome.
Yeah,
I think that'd be really fun. Favors and strengthen weaknesses.
Also because that would be one of the fun things to sort of like play around with. Maybe you want like the Fury, but a more like controlled Fury, or maybe you want to go all out aggro and find the right warlord for that. So that sounds like such a good idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was also thinking, Dave, because in a tabletop simulator, you have a 1v1 match. Would there be any kind of format for Grimpath where you could play multiple players? Maybe 4 all against 1 or something. 4 players at one time.
Yes, definitely. You can right now. You can right click and delete that playmat, and you could put like a 10x10 board in there, and you can run a 4-person game. I think I set it up so there are 6 seats on that table.
Yeah. We were like, there are a lot of seats here.
A lot of colors to choose from. Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely there's a part of me that's like, oh my God, what's tabletop simulators out there? People are just going to take a wrecking ball to all my organization, and they're going to be like, look, I made like 50 of these characters. I'm like, oh my God, because that's really what the game is all about. Making a TCG is all about making your own game. It gives you the tools to make your own experience. And with Tabletop Simulator, you can kind of get away with a lot of that, even with these just 30-card decks. But yes, two-headed giant, 4 versus 4. I think that the only thing that will prevent people from doing like a 100-person versus 100-person match, which is like totally something I would love for us to do as like an event, like just to rent like a giant space and be like, everybody come, let's battle royale and see what happens. I think that the only like logistics trouble with that is like you may be 10 feet to the left moving your miniatures, then you have to run back over and be like tap tap tap, then run back over to your miniatures.
You have like a board you can go with you, so you can go like tap tap and then
we have played with rules for like extended giant games like that, where the turn order is based off of which 10 by 10 group you're around, or like I definitely want to try to integrate a battle, at least like 4v4, 5v5. That's fine because you're sitting around a smaller table area. And so that, like, Battle of Five Armies, that's one of my favorite lines from the old Hobbit cartoon. A battle of 5 armies, like a battle of 4 armies. So I like to always think about that when I think about multiple people playing like Two-Headed Giant or 4v4. And the very, very, very first playtest I ever did was my D&D group. I was like, I brought my game over, and there was 4 decks that I had like slapped together, and it was 4v4. Well, I think we did 2v2 for that that night, but it played great, as a 4v4 person game. So I think that there's room for like at least 1 to 4, or I should say 2 to 4. We're working on a solo mode, but we're focusing on the multiplayer version of the game. But eventually it'll be 1 to at least 4 on the box. But I do want it to be more. And then just one more thing to say about that, like just like in Magic, there's standard, which is what you're playing in the demo. The demo is the standard mode where we follow the tournament rules. That's the tournament version of the game. And then there's extended, where the rules are slightly different in that instead of us both placing terrain, in extended, whoever's player 1 gets to pick the battlefield. Ooh. And that way you could be like, you can play on any sized arena. You're like, this is my 20 by 20 castle that I've been working on. This is my room where I live. And this is your ship. Yeah, exactly. That pirate ship, I used to always go to the game stores, and there's that big pirate ship at the D&D exactly. Yeah. And I definitely, at one point, I drove to, like, working on Grimpath, I drove to the comic store, and I, like, just to look at it, and I was like, okay, if I move here, that will work with my range system. And if I move here, okay, yeah, we can play. This can be a standard arena. So yeah, that, like, Grimpath is, I've always wanted to buy that thing and play on it, but I don't play D&D tactically enough to ever justify that purchase. Like, we get into a fight and I'm like, I throw boiling oil all over the walls, and it's like, I can't really like tactically do that. And so I wanted a game where I could throw boiling water all over the walls, but still play with a tactical rule set. And that's kind of where Grimpath comes in. And so for me, this whole thing is a project just so that I could get that, like, justify the purchase of that pirate ship and play on it.
Exactly. Do like a business write-off thing.
Yeah,
I think
there we go.
The perfect reason to
even
work
better.
for years and years on a card game.
Yeah, even better, exactly. But yeah, in extended mode, you'll be able to play, like, you'll have a lot more room to sort of play with, like, more people. Extended mode, you could be like, there's 8 of us, and it's 7 of us versus 1 person. Like, this person's like, I'm in my castle, let's see if you can come beat me.
That's really cool. And also very much like Hero Quest or like some role-playing game where, like, okay, I'm going to be like the dungeon master and I have like my castle, come get me sort of thing.
Yes.
That would be really fun to try out, definitely. And I think it works well because there's so much you can do with Grimpath.
As a video game designer, like, one of the things that you do with video games is, like, you spend like the first year in like an empty room, just making the combat feel good, making jumping feel good. And meantime, the environment artists are over there, like, building these crazy worlds, and you're kind of separated. Then at some point when the white roomed, like, combat feels really good, it's been designed to fit into the environment stuff. So then you just throw that in the environment, and, like, now you're jumping on walls and bouncing off of all these tunnels, and there's enemies to fight, and it all kind of like fits together. I think Grimpath is kind of like that, where the standard mode is our white arena room, where this is the game, without an environment artist. And then if you want to be the environment artist, as like, like, now you can build your environment and you have a very tactical game that is designed to fit onto that. It kind of, like, again, like the pirate ship, it really is an excuse for me to, like, play. I grew up in a house with a lot of model railroads and also a lot of Nintendos. And so I was like, the model railroad is beautiful and I love it and I love making stuff, but I would like to jump on the roof and then shoot stuff. Like I want to like cast spells, you know. And so Grimpath is kind of like the merging of those two things, where it's like now that you have this like gameplay that you can play with, it gives me the excuse to be like, I'm going to make one of those crazy arenas to play in, and then like start building and building from there.
So is the extended version going to be different in terms of decks as well? Will there be more cards, or are we still playing the same deck but just in a bigger space?
That's the intention, is that it's the same game, that like the difference would be like, oh, I can play with Black Lotus. Like that's really the kind of difference that I would like for there to be, that it's not, the rules are the same, that you're playing the same game, but like we just allow you to play on a bigger arena. We cut out some of the like really important tournament rules, like, you know, don't play with Black Lotus. That, you know, we're just like simple, you know, allow you to just sort of like go to town. And that's kind of the magic that I always like to play, is we would just play after work, and, you know, it was all about like your crazy decks, and not, you know, if you found like speaking to the question you had about how many warlords will there be, you know, for me, my favorite thing in a game, pretty much in all games, is when you take a mechanic that like people don't pay attention to, but then you figure out how to use it in a way that makes it really powerful. And even if it's not the most game-breaking, most powerful ability, if you can stand your ground with it, it feels so satisfying to me. And so that's kind of like, I want there to be lots of warlords, so that you could be like, this little like dude with his goat, you know, like he's such a useless warlord. But then you're like, oh, wait a minute, that one goat has that one ability, and they combo to get, and then if I give him that shield, then, you know, like I love that sort of stuff. So I want extended to sort of feel that way. I want standard and extended to feel that way. But that's, you know, extended is like, you know, to allow all the things that you know, that the tournament stuff wouldn't normally allow, because it wants you to stay in a focus, like 15-minute, 20-minute fight. Professional rules that you could like argue over and be like, I want that prize. That was my prize. Not be like, I lost that prize because you had that castle that's unfair.
So now you're speaking about tournaments. Have you some sort of vision for a more competitive sort of Grimpath game?
Well, I do. We are going to have our first Halloween tournament, and the winner of that tournament is going to get the first copy of the like starter set when it's available. I'll send, like, that's going to be the like prize, I think, for the tournament. And we're going to do that on Halloween. I think on the 31st is a Tuesday night. I think in Discord after next Wednesday, we'll sort of figure out the times that people will want to do that. So Mark, I want you guys to be in the tournament. Not that I wasn't going to send you a starter set anyways, but we
want to win them. We want to earn them.
Yeah, there you go. Yes. But yeah, so, and also you'll get, we have our first promo card is that electrocuted goblin bard, which is,
I love it.
that's a low-key reference to a 1980s trading card, and if you message it to me, then I will think you're awesome. I'm not going to spoil it though. I think I'm like that artist that had done that drawing. His name is Zenny, and he's been working on Grimpath for like the last year. He's pretty much defined what the goblins look like. Like all I did was say I want them to be like gremlins, you know, kind of crazy all over the place. And so I really like his style of gremlins, or goblins. So I just keep reaching out to him. Let's do more and more goblins together. And so this card, well, I think I'm gonna have him send the card to him and have him sign it, and then I'll sign it, and then that'll be one of the prizes for the tournament. But yeah, I've never run a tournament, and I don't enter a lot of tournaments, so it'll be a little bumpy ride first, but I do want Grimpath to be a tournament. You know, I do want people playing Grimpath competitively and taking it very seriously. Like the rules are designed to be fun and to just be very splashy. But like I was saying about how standard mode is like, I do want it to be like golf. I want it to be like important to people, and like I want them to be able to challenge rules and like to, you know, to feel confident that it's like this is a solid ship that they're on and that they can navigate on. So yeah, that like tournaments, I definitely want to have a very robust tournament system. And even like drafting, when we get more cards, like being able to draft a warband, that's something that I think would be really fun at game stores. Because you could draft, warlords. I'm going to pick this warlord. And then like while you're watching, and you build your deck, and then while you're watching your friend play their match and you have some free time, you walk over to the Whiz Kids section and you're like, oh, here's the bard. That's exactly who I want leading my thing. So you can pick up a couple extra like minis to like sort of liven up your drafted deck.
And it feels pretty Grimpath-like to have to draft something, because that also gives like the huge element of randomness. I mean, you don't know if you're going to get like this really smooth, cool vampire sort of deck, or it's going to be vampires, goats, and goblins. I mean, it could be anything. And I really like the idea of having to play that both with the minis, but also with the cards.
Awesome. Yeah. I really I love that. Like it does. You're right. It does encourage this. Like the randomness does encourage that sort of, callback to what I was saying about how like you take a card that's useless, but in the right combination, it's very powerful. And during drafting, it's always fun to be like to come up with those emergency like combos where you're like, oh God, what am I going to do with this horrible I'm like, oh, suddenly it kind of works.
Yeah, and it kind of works and tells like a really fun story that you might not have thought of otherwise, because suddenly you got this like huge jumble of every sort of like creature, and that's I imagine that'd be a lot of fun.
You just like immediately in my head I was like carnival, and it's like, oh, what a fun like way to like accidentally come up with like a band of like a carnival that you're like, this is my carnival of warlords. But I love it. Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. So you were speaking of like the different sort of like influences and saying we have these 5, but you can mix them up, right?
Yeah. So your warlord has a power, toughness, and health. The power is when you exhaust a recruited minion or a warlord, it can provide you with influence of its type equal to its power. When you rally a minion, you can only get 1 from it because he's like not fully involved in the fight. But your warlord has a power, and in general, right now they're all just there's a fury warlord, there's a shadow warlord. They'll be shadow fury warlords. This can use its power for both fury and spirit.
Ooh, nice.
But then you can augment your warlord's abilities with your influence cards. So influence cards are kind of like lands in Magic the Gathering. You get to put 1 out per turn. You can use them immediately when you put them into play. They stay in play. The biggest difference I would say is that they're like evolved lands. They always have an ability that can provide. The idea is that you're influencing the battle. You're influencing the way the game is being played. And your influence grows, so you are a more powerful warlord. Your ability to command your warlord has increased. So you can augment your warlord. Let's say you have the Fury Warlord with shadow influence cards. Like you could already mix and match the 2 demo decks if you wanted to create like a shadow goblin deck. So you would put your influence cards into play. You exhaust your influence to gain shadow. You exhaust your warlord to gain fury, and so you'd be able to play the cards. And just like most TCGs, there's the colorless cost and the sphere of influence cost.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is required to cast a card. So you can mix and match all you want with that. That's that's like one of my favorite parts. Take me all the way back to Magic, and like I know I'm wrong, but like I always liked how there was like a sort of balance where you had to, like, if you wanted to have a multicolored deck, you needed to be very good at balancing the colors of the mana that you have, and you could get mana screwed. And there was a time where I was like, I like that part. I know it's wrong, but I like that. And I would go push and pull, because like I said, I'm like a lightning bolt. I'm like, this is fun. I like that. But they're, trying to get it all balanced. The way that we balance it so that it's not mana screwy like Magic is, first of all, we allow rallying minions, which is a way we could talk about that. But basically, like the elevator pitch for rallying a minion is you could recruit a minion by paying its influence cost. When you do that, it enters the battlefield alongside with you with a fantasy manager, and it fights to its fullest ability. Or you can rally a minion, which means that you put it in your barracks area, which is where you keep all your cards. And when you do that, he's basically like standing in the background, like, go, you guys do it, cheering on your warband, providing you with more power and influence to command your warband. But when you do that, you don't use any of its abilities. You don't pay attention to its influence cost. You don't pay attention to its power. It's
just a resource.
A generic one resource.
Yeah. But then you can also like recruit that later, as long, like on a later turn, you can spend influence to recruit them onto the battlefield. So that helps a lot. And there's two things that helps with is one, in a magic style mana system, you have to have at least 50% of your deck is made up with just that energy type. And that kind of sucked in Grimpath in that like, it's annoying once you've got your like, your group together. It's annoying to continue to draw energy when you're like, I don't need any more energy. I need more, And so rallying minions really allowed us to reduce the count of influence cards in your deck. So in Grimpath, there's somewhere between 6 to 10 influence cards in a deck rather than 15 or 12. You could get away with a deck with no influence if you wanted to. Like a white weenie deck would totally work without influence cards. You could just rally minions and recruit them when you needed to. And I wanted you to have that choice. Like, do you want to make a warlord that has a lot of minions? You have that ability. Do you want to make a warlord that has no minions and it's all influence, like combat, abilities that you add to a warlord to just beef up your warlord? So you just have this one warlord that you're moving around. I wanted to give you that ability. I really want you to have the ability to create any type of sort of fantasy hero that you can imagine with this game, and then have a balanced tactical system that you could fight with each other.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to balance it out actually, and also as you mentioned, having those influence down that do other things than just be influenced. If you want to use them like that, I think that's also great. So, are there going to be many influence cards? I played the Shadow deck yesterday, and one of the influence cards said that you could move a minion 2 spaces, or you could move it 5 spaces, but then exhaust it, unless it was a slime, which my warlord, was. So, are there going to be many of those kind of cards that have some sort of synergy with special creature types? Or
I want there to be a lot. There's a large number of influence cards spec'd in the full set. They range from like, in the demo, most of them are like movement abilities, and in the first edition, a lot of them are movement abilities. But they will evolve to be more physical abilities, like Punch, where you just like deal 1 damage to a miniature that you're next to, could be an influence card, or Push, pushing a minion that's next to you 4 spaces away. There'll be a lot of abilities like that for you to sort of pick and choose from to like sort of create your own sort of thing. There's definitely there's fall damage. So there's definitely room for you to be able to push people off of cliff. Yeah, and like, if somebody's like, oh, I've drafted all these push cards, like, oh, if I do this summon card, like Dragged into Shadow, if you had a shadow creature that did push, you could build a tower for your, when you're doing terrain, and then summon people up and push them off. Like that could be like goofy techniques like that are definitely what I'm hoping to see people come up with.
That sounds great. Are there also going to be cards that influence the battlefield? Like a wall of fire or a big crater that you can't pass? Or
I love both of those. Wall of fire, that sounds great. Nalzabar is one of our Discord members, and he mentioned yesterday, like, is there going to be terrain cards for forests where I could put a tree down that like nature minions could walk through, but other minions couldn't? So yes, definitely. And on the play space, there's there's the barracks area. That's where your cards go. The battlefield is where the miniatures go, and then to the right of the battlefield on each side is an area called the battlefield enchantment area. And right now, that's just where you put stuff in the demo. When you like a relic card, for example, when I kill a minion, if it's holding a relic, it drops that relic onto the ground. You just put that in the battlefield enchantment area. But there is going to be a series of cards called terrain cards that would go into the battlefield enchantment area. Battlefield enchantments, which will just be like, it's raining, and now everybody pays 1 extra influence to take a step. That type of stuff.
That would be so cool because that affects like the entire environment around it. And also, I mean, if you can add stuff or conjure up like, okay, I need like a huge blob of slime right here. I mean, that's really cool because it really adds to the feeling that you can manipulate both the cards, the minis, and the terrain. I really like that idea.
Nice. Yeah. You just made me think it's raining slime. Sounds like it needs to be a card.
That needs to be a card.
It's rain, it's slime.
Exactly.
Slime rain.
So I was like, when we played yesterday, I was like, okay, we definitely need to get this going because I was also like, okay, if I build this deck, I would have made like 2 of these. I want 1 more of these. So, I mean, you mentioned it once, but let's just like get the ball rolling. There's a Kickstarter. This game is going to be out and we're going to be able to play it. So what about this Kickstarter? What's happening? And can people go check it out already?
Yes. Okay. So I think the link is in the description. Look at me. I'm a YouTuber. The link is in the description. So our Kickstarter is going to be in February. I think it's going to start February 15th, but we might move it up depending like a few days. That's why I haven't picked the exact day. I also want to make sure that we're not like doing it on a day that is a known day that something else is coming out. So early February. I mean, I want to get it out. Like I would do the Kickstarter tomorrow if we were allowed to. I would love to. But there's just there's a lot that, I mean, even if we did the Kickstarter tomorrow, we'd still be shipping the game at the same time. It would just make my life a lot easier because we'd have a bigger budget. But the main thing I want to do is I want to make sure that we deliver the product like on time. And so there's a certain number of gates that I want to pass through. The demo, shipping the demo, that's one of them. Getting the physical demo out. That will just mean that as soon as we do the Kickstarter in February, that we have all that stuff like in the machine working. We've already, we're working on miniatures right now. We're going to have the first like injection molded miniature coming up soon, and we can talk about that in a second. But we're going through that process with the starter set, like getting the miniatures built, finding out like the flaws that we need to look out for, so that when we go into the fuller production, we're just ready to like crank the game out and get it ready for you for summertime. Because that's what I would like to do. I'd like to ship the first edition for summer so that you can be playing this summer in 2004 or 24. But So I like working on the videos and stuff like that. I'm just like, oh God, I just want to like publish these videos. I just want to like, I can't wait to get it out there. But we did need a little bit of, production time to get the Kickstarter videos completed and stuff like that. And to make sure that the demo was all working. And I wanted to get all that stuff set up first. There's a lot to be said for Kickstarters that just like poof show up and they're like, here's this game, you want to play it, so buy it. But I am much more of like I guess I'm a skeptical person where I'm like, I just want to make sure that people know what it is that they're like getting, and I want to make sure. So that's why I wanted to ship the demo first and like to really get it out there, because I believe in this game a lot, and I know for me it's my field of dreams, and so it's like I know that when you start playing it that people are gonna be like, well, I want to play more of this, because that's how I feel. And so that's, for me, I'm just like, I look at what we shipped for the demo and I'm like, this could have been a Kickstarter. Like, this is a nice little like game. I want to get all the stuff worked out and then get it set up for the Kickstarter in February. So for now, we do need you, like I think I was saying, like, we are looking for, people to join our party. Our adventure is bright. So if you join, follow our Kickstarter campaign, that'll help us get to our goals faster, I think. If you can follow it on the pre-launch right now, and then in February we'll be ringing the bell to like and subscribe.
So what are people getting if they're going to pledge? I mean, you're not going to be able to detail everything, but what is like the main idea? What is the Kickstarter version of Grimpath?
There'll be the full first edition of the game, which is 295 cards plus our Warlord lineup. So there'll be a lot of cards for you to mix and match.
I love that.
That's like a historic nod to like the first Magic set. I was like, how many cards should we do? And I was like, well, you've got to, go back to the well, like, go to the source, and there's magic in Magic. So I was like, well, follow your heroes. So it's sort of like a little nod. It's like just a little like heroic nod that one day will be as big as Magic, hopefully, as long as we do that. But yeah, we'll have the 295 card first edition plus the Warlords. The starter set, you could get the starter set. There'll be the starter set deluxe, which will be like a sort of bigger version of the starter set. Maybe it'll have all the miniatures in it. It'll also, the first edition will also have a bunch of miniatures that you could purchase to go along with it, and you'll be able to buy sets, either like the starter set of miniatures, which would, you could just get the starter minis to get going, because Grimpath is, just as a reminder, it's a miniatures agnostic game. If you find miniatures that you love that inspire you to build a deck, use them. If you find cards that you love that you want to go out and hunt for miniatures to match, we want to encourage that. If you are a miniature creator and you love Grimpath and you want to just start creating miniatures, I want to support that. So I want there to be like lots of different avenues for people to have a customized experience. But we will be, in the Kickstarter, we have, the starter set package of minis that you'll be able to sort of either buy individually or buy sets of. But the main goal for the starter set, and there'll be play mats for you to pick from. We're working on some play mat ideas. Yeah, there's some fun stuff about that that we could talk about. Fitting it into the Magic the Gathering play area is one of the things that I've been trying to do, so that when it's time to start playing Grimpath at the game store, it's like a natural transition. It's just same area. So there's some play mats that I've designed to sort of fit into that area and to fit the game well. So there'll be some play mats, the full first edition, the starter set deluxe. There'll be like the deluxe set that you could get that has like all of it all in one. There was originally, the first edition for Grimpath originally in my mind was a TCG that's kind of like a board game where you would get, and we still may ship this one with the Kickstarter, but it's basically, this may be what the starter set deluxe is, which is just like the starter set, but instead it's all like a deck for each of the 5 factions. And then all of the starter minis that you would need for that. For people that want something like that and they don't want this like expansive universe, but they just want a board game, that I feel like will deliver that. And then we can just go off and nerd out like crazy and be like, let's do expansions and let's make more cards.
Yeah.
Buy 2 booster boxes so that we can get extra cards. We can do that, but then there's some people that can do the sort of Hero's Quest nod.
So what do you imagine if I'm like, we open a lot of booster boxes, we have a lot of different games, and we just in general love playing cardboard with kids and just with us and with friends. So if I'm opening a booster box of Grimpath, what's in that box? How's it packaged? What can I get? Is it random?
So we'll have booster packs that are just like your standard TCG booster packs. In the booster box, there'll be also like there'll be, these aren't official, but they're like, the die cut miniatures.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
These die cut miniatures are designed so that if you're not a war gamer, here maybe one hand is better. If you're not a war gamer, you can use these. But yeah, you can use these, to play with. So in the booster box, there'll be die cut miniatures so that you can play a mat, you could draft and you could use those as miniatures to play a draft without any miniatures. Great. So yeah, you have just your booster, like you could just buy a booster box to do the draft. And then there's ideas that we're talking about trying to fit, like as we start getting a little bit more into the packaging world of things, it would be nice to ship like a booster pack, like the idea, if there's, I imagine like, me as a little kid, and it's like, I buy a couple 3 booster packs. I want to like noodle around and play with it while, my mom's getting gas and I'm in the back of the car, if people still do that. But I want to noodle around with that. And so like, I'm trying to figure out if there's a way to get like a sort of temporary mini that you can put inside the cards. There's like I don't have an image of it, but you imagine there's like some perforated, like 3 sets of perforated lines.
You can just,
you can sort of little punch outs maybe with a creature face on or something.
Yeah, and that would be like the ultimate throwaway like mini that you could use to like just play at the bus stop or something like that. But that's those are things that we're trying to do to make the game accessible, because it's all about making this game accessible. Wargaming is a little like hard to get into for people like me that have like really short attention spans, and so I want to make sure that it's an accessible war game, and so we'll try to be doing things like that to make just the raw booster box. And like the raw booster box at least will be ready to play out of the pack and for you to expand with. But even a boost, like if you bought a couple booster packs and you're like, well, let's play a 15 card match, that would be cool if we could sort of support that. But then also packages where you could buy a booster pack with a mini. So like you'll be getting a mini and a couple booster packs in like a little package. So you may pick up some of those, and we may put like some types of like a core booster that's like in that core booster is like that mini plus some that synergize with it, and then two booster packs that are purely random, so that it's sort of like a little bit of like a hybrid. The randomness, what you were mentioning earlier, the randomness really, I think, gets people's juices flowing with their creativity. So that's why it's TCG and not a living card game. But having a smidge of some inspiration from some of the other types of card games, I think, is in the future of Grimpath, so that it just delivers the right experience, I think.
Yeah, and also, of course, also to make it viable for game stores, you need to have some sort of churn, and having the randomness and the chance of pulling something cool makes people go back and buy more stuff, of course. But also it works not just from a business perspective, but for Grimpath as this fun, randomized, build a deck with whatever you have. So I think that really works both ways. So I think it's a great idea that it is like a really TCG in that way. Yeah. So will you be able to like both buy a box experience in the Kickstarter and then add some booster boxes, or what's the idea with it?
Totally. Yeah. You can there'll be different tiers that you could pick from. Like you could buy the starter set with like a starter set booster, which will be like probably a pack of like a set of booster packs and some minis that you could use to sort of pump it up a little bit if you just want to taste. You could, there'll be, I'm sure there'll be like some like 60 card,
pre-made decks.
Yeah, definitely pre-made decks. But like I know Magic had like some TCGs, and like I remember Magic ones that were like, these are 60 random cards or something like that. Yeah. Something like that, maybe to like, but maybe these are 60 random from one sphere of influence. So something like that. Playing with ideas like that to give people, because it is like a little bit of a like one of the reasons TCG over LCG for me is like I love when you can't find a card. I like that. It makes it magical when you find it. Like you're like, this is a real artifact. Like this card is actually magic. It doesn't,
and it's difficult to find, and it's rare.
So Dave, at some point we also talked about rarities and foilings. So have you come up with a system for the different rarities of Grimpath, and are you going to include some sort of foilings also?
Yeah, so there's definitely going to be a set of foils. There, like what types of foils those will be able to we're still working that out. It depends on the printer that we're going for. But I definitely want to make sure that the foils are like, ooh, these are cool foils. So yeah, if there's a type of foil that you want Grimpath to be in, now is a good time to get into Discord and be like, make this type of a foil, and I'll be like, okay.
Gold foil.
Gold foil, yeah. When I did some demos with some places, there's some really cool foils that people have sent, they had sent me that I got really excited about, and then some that I didn't get tested because they do cost a lot to get tested, because they're they've got all different mumbo jumbos, all the reflective things all over them. But I definitely am excited about doing official versions of those ones when we're a little bit more locked in with those. And when it comes to like the algorithms for the rarities, a lot of, for me, like one of the when I think about rarities as a game designer, my first thought is like, it's really important to get hands-on experience with the cards. and to get some play testing to help us define what mechanics really are the ones that players are trying, once we start getting more deck building, what are the mechanics that players are pulling towards more? Like what are the hardcore players using versus this, like the casuals? And then sort of defining game, like letting gameplay really define the rarities of cards. But on top of that, we'll come up like, one of the things Alex with Gen Con, he's like, what's your algorithm for your energy system? And I was like, what? I'm just lightning. I'll just, I shoot lightning at it and see what happens. But he came up with a really great algorithm system that we use for balancing the numbers on the cards. And so we'll be creating a system like that that'll help us once we know this is a card we want it to, like, there's cards that you want to be rare because you're like, we're going to design it to be rare. Like we're going to spend some extra on this artwork and we're going to go a little crazy with it. But there's always that, you never know that card may, you may design a card to be rare and then people are like, I don't want it. And then it's not rare because it's on the floor of every LGS. And so there is like a little bit of a give or take that I want to do with like what the player demands and letting that drive rarities. But there will be, rare foil cards. And then also like I said about which foil you want, like Discord right now is a really great time. If you're interested in like pushing for things that you like in a card game, now's a great time because I'm very pushable. Like you can convince me to be like, solo gameplay, for example, is something that like, initially I was like, well, I have a loose solo system that I use to design the game, but I wasn't intending on making it a part of the core experience. But so many people have asked for it, and so many people, seem to really love that type of like gameplay that it has got me thinking about it more and more to the point where I'm like, no, solo mode is something I do want to like get into this game. Hopefully the core Kickstarter experience. And this last, like, ever since I was pushed into that, I'm constantly thinking about how to integrate it like into the system. So now's a really good time to like push for like, I want more beholders. There's, make sure that you put
unicorns. Now it's time to get into the Discord and make sure it happens.
Yes, like there's definitely gonna be some cats now.
Elven snipers, lots of good stuff.
And black cats.
Yeah. And black cats.
Yeah, like your Elven snipers and black cat stack. Like they all have like a little cat on their shoulder.
Shooting cats.
Shooting cats out straight like that's like Conan, the movie where he straightens out the snake and shoots it like an arrow. But you can do that with a cat.
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be really nice and flavorful.
That would be such a funny reference.
What is Alex like primarily doing? What did he really enjoy? And was there other stuff that he was like, okay, you need to fix this? What did he help with the most?
He keeps me in check. Like for that latter one, he keeps me in check. Like I'll be like, check out this card. I want to swap it out. And he's like, that's a great card, but not for the demo. And like, I'm like, damn it, like he keeps me, like he sort of has his eye on the finish line. And I kind of just like throw sticks at him like along the way, like trying to trip him up. Yeah. And so, and I'm just running around the field, like, throwing grass in the air and all this stuff, just having a great time while he's trying to like, he's going to be like, I want to win this race. So that, he helps focus and like, keep me in check with some of those ideas. And then he focusing on balancing, like all of the numbers on the cards are all Alex adjusted. I was like, this costs 3, this costs 3, this costs 3. He's like, okay, this costs 1, this costs 6, and so he's done a lot of adjustments on that to like just make it a more solid, TCG. So he does a lot of that. And then he also, the other thing he does is he beats the crap out of me when we play together. I think I beat him once. We play it like, we try to play like every other day at least. We play a lot. There's like a lot of builds that I'll try and be like, I want to try this. Let's do this. Let's do that. And so we play a lot, and he beats me every time. But the nice thing about it is that when we switch decks, he beats me every time. So at least I'm like, okay, it's balanced. Like that's That's the only thing I care about. Like, I don't care about winning. I just want to make sure that the game is balanced and that, like, you know, we're delivering a solid experience. That making the game is the game for me. So even though I'm losing every hand, I'm still winning in a little bit of a way. That's what I tell myself, crying in the mirror.
I know the feeling.
But yeah, it's great to play with him. Like, the excuse I always joke about when we're playing is like, well, you know, I'm in demo mode where I'm like trying to have a fun experience with people. I don't play aggressively. He's like, okay, keep telling yourself what you're telling yourself. I'm like, I need to tell myself these things.
That's rough. I hadn't thought about actually getting beaten in your own game. I mean, you made it, and now you're getting beaten up.
It gives me so much confidence in Alex too, because I really I do need a Yang for my like cartoonish Yang. Like I really do. I've been worried about like the hardcoreness, the tournament quality, like part nuts and bolts of the combat system, because I can be so like, this is fun. Like now it's a banana and you throw the banana on the field and it makes people slide around. I was a little worried about like, oh God, I hate, I'm worried that people are just going to like have game breaking mechanics and stuff like that. And he has come in and really like, he thinks about that stuff a lot. And so he really does keep that stuff in check and help, keep help us keep like going down the right path, to exploit a pun that I use way too much.
But I think it sounds like it's a great collaboration, because also Grimpath, I mean, ever since I had like the first look at it, it has that sort of like wacky, fun, quirkiness to it. And I really, really enjoyed that part. Right. But of course, it also needs to work and be like, a robust system, especially if you're going to be doing tournaments. But I think like the great combination of those two things, that's the perfect combo for me, at least.
Nice. Yeah. For me too. I love like joking around, but I take everything seriously, but I like to have fun. Indiana Jones is like my favorite, where it's like you freeze a frame of Indiana Jones and you're like, that is a serious movie. Like they really, like that's cinematography right there. That's not just like cartoon, TV show, but then you play it and it's totally funny. That's my jam. Like I love that. Or the D&D movie. Like you can pause the D&D movie and it's fantasy, but it looks like a really serious movie, but then it's totally full of jokes and tongue in cheek. Like I really love that juxtaposition. I always joke with people, like there's the Predator movie, a Predator movie came out, and there's a scene where these kids were chased by the Predator, and there's no jokes in the whole movie. And this scene where the Predator's chasing them, and like the kids get away, and they run up to the police, and they're like, I don't know, it was like an alien or something. And I was like, that would have been the perfect time for a character to be like, I don't know, like an ape or a bear was chasing us. Like just to throw in some like something. Like I find that like in real life, when you're in the worst experience of your life, somebody still is going to like be like, hey, at least it's not raining. Like that, like we try to cope with things with humor, like humans. And so when there's like a universe or like a movie or a story that I'm watching and there's no one coping with the direness of this and the seriousness with any type of humor, it kind of takes me out of it, because I know at least I'm going to be like, it's not raining over and over again.
Lost a leg, but it's not raining.
Yeah. It's just a flesh wound. It's just a flesh wound. Like, that's it, like, that's going to happen. Somebody's like, it's all right. It's just a flesh wound. And being able to have those jokes like in your universe, I think really helps solidify it, even though you're sort of having a sort of tongue-in-cheek sort of experience with it. Like I love that sarcasm. So I'm glad that it sort of came off to you like that when we were just looking at the art and stuff like that. And then when it comes down, even though we're having a good time and it's just fun, when it comes down to it, like this is like a nerd's paradise. This is hard. Yeah, this is serious. Like do not mess around. Like I experience every time I play with Alex. He just demolishes me.
That's very cool. So the Kickstarter is going to be in February. What are we going to do until then? You're talking about tournament and the TTS is just open to play. What's the best place to look for other players if you want to play it?
I think like Discord probably is where players, I'm hoping that we can start going, hey, let's play, like, let's start a match, and we can, I'm going to start being like, somebody play with me, I want to play, like testing rules and stuff like that. So Discord will be a fun place for you to be able to try some.
It's a fun place already. It
All
will
right,
get
all right.
even more fun, but
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, I definitely think that there'll be nights where I'm like, I'm looking for a volunteer to play test a deck. And so, like, if you're around, you can always jump in with me and play, like, some experimental stuff. And then, yeah, there's already somebody in the playtesting channel I saw that was like, somebody found a Lego. Underneath the table, there's a bag. There's a bag that I didn't delete. And in that bag is like an infinite supply of Legos. So...
That's perfection.
Now there's an Easter egg in there, I guess.
Intentional.
Yeah, intentional Easter egg. But yeah, there was some people that were setting up a match to play, and I was just like, I watched that like with my eyes glowing, because it's like, that's what it's all about. I can't wait to see that. And so starting to see people doing that is awesome, and hopefully that we can grow and grow. So yeah, leading up to the Kickstarter, to answer your question, so we have the tournament in October. Then in November, I definitely want to do some like YouTube content. I'm trying to figure out how to reach out to some more YouTubers to do some more like, hey, check it out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then December we'll probably do some Christmas thing. I don't know what that is. Like maybe another tournament, like a small one, depending on like the player size. But we're all going to be busy in December with the holidays. And then in January, I think that's when you'll see me really hit the pavement with, I've got some, we'll be like really pushing, hey, this, the Kickstarter's coming next month, so get ready. There's a convention in LA. Strategicon is one of the cons that I went to play. And it was really awesome. If you're in the LA area, go to the Strategicons because they're super cool. It was actually really cool. It was at a hotel. People come to stay at this hotel, and then you game all night long with people at the hotel. Like all of the ballrooms and the lobby rooms, all of them are just full of people playing board games all the way into 1 o'clock in the morning.
That's epic.
It's really cool. The first night I was there, I was like, I want to see if there's a room that I could stay in, and they were like, it's totally booked up. There's no rooms. So yeah, I think in mid-February, there's another Strategicon. So we might try to tie that into the launch of the Kickstarter and do like an in-person event and then launch the Kickstarter that day. I don't know. To like what you said, like, what are we going to do up until then? It's like, to me, I'm like, oh, it's so far away, but I know it is quick. Like,
yeah, it's going to be fast, and everything that needs to be organized and everything. And definitely, I mean, if people go join the Discord, we're in there hanging out as well, and we want to play as well. So maybe look out for a game and add us if you're ready to go play.
That would be awesome. I would love it. Yeah. In the place, if you want to come into the play testing channel and start adding people and be like, let's go, let's play. Like, at me, I'll come play. Yeah, I'm always there to play a game anytime in the afternoon, Pacific time, and on the weekends, all day long. I'm there. I'm definitely down to play with you. So come play.
Cool. Very cool. So are we ready to wrap it up? Is there anything else that you would like to add, like in the final moments here? Because we do hope to get you back again when the Kickstarter is launching, because then we can, have a look at the different tiers and talk about everything going on there.
Yeah, I think you'll be able to get me back here before then. I'm sure I'll be like,
that sounds marvelous.
Cool.
Yeah. I think we were talking about trying to do like a learn to play video together.
Yeah,
I'd really love to do that. Yeah.
And then we can get like the expert advice and, get a game in and get people, have them look at what's actually going on and how fun the game is. So I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I would love to do that. We can even try a 4-player game together. And just that might be really fun to do on a stream together. Like that'd be really fun.
Definitely.
So we'll do like a learn to play. Like let's do some stuff. Like we'll play at least once or twice before that. So now you know what we're doing before Christmas.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds awesome. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and also again, congratulations, Dave, for coming this far. It's really it's wonderful to follow him from the sidelines and seeing this dream of yours just grow and become a reality.
Thank you. That's
really,
so cool.
Really marvelous.
Yeah, no, thank you for being here on this journey with me, because it's what it's all about. Like, fantasy parties are all about fantasy. It's never just one hero; it's always a party. You gotta have a group.
Yeah.
Gotta have a
Yeah,
group.
we are in the barracks cheering you on,
Yes,
and
yes.
looking forward to seeing more Grimpath in the future.
I love it. And then also, one more thing. I am going to try to be making more videos from now until the Kickstarter. I'm working on a how to play, like a technical how to play video series.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll post the first video next week for that. I'm just working on all of the animations and stuff in it. And then that will be like, a 3-minute intro. And then I'll break up and do other videos like how to do combat, how to do this, how strategies and stuff like that.
Cool.
And then hopefully that inspires.
Link in the description so people can go find your YouTube channel and watch you become a YouTuber on the side as well.
We'll see. I'm hiring. I go to Fiverr a lot to find voiceover.
No, that was excellent. Especially the ending you had.
We love
it. Was
the
like,
ending.
That's so great. Thank you so much. That video is set to private, but I'll set that to public right now so you can check it out on the channel. Yeah, see, I'm so shy.
Very cool. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're listening to this as a podcast, and go check out Grimpath. All the links are in the show notes or in the description. And see you in the next video, people.
Awesome.
Bye.